key Alt and Windows when I'm moving it. But it's not like it's an essential adjustment. It's just a matter of if you want to control how much is white.
Yeah. Okay, one more follow-up histogram question. This is from Marion, who is in Bucharest, Romania. Is there a way to automatically make the histogram touch the white and black ends?
Well, hitting the auto button, which is found just above the exposure and contrast sliders, I don't know if it's going to make it always hit the ends, but let me grab an image that I have yet to adjust and see if it has any gaps. Yeah, it has a large gap on the right and has a spike on the left. If I hit the auto button, you're going to find it's going to distribute those tones across most of the area. And so you could start with auto. So in this image, if I choose auto and then I glance at the picture, I think the highlights are way too bright. You see the base of the temple looks white to me. If I were to see a large spike, on the right side, it would tell me it's solid white, and I'd adjust whites. Otherwise, in this case, I bring highlights down to tone that down. So, but the auto button. Anything else?
A question from Janet. How do you decide when to adjust highlights or whites when the tones targeted would be addressed by either?
Most of the time I choose highlights. And I only choose white either when I'm done with making the image look good overall, or there is a obvious area that's solid white, noonday sun, that kind of thing. I know that if I want to only affect that area, I go for whites. But most of the time, blacks and whites I do at the end. And everything else is what I use to optimize the image. And then blacks and whites is kind of fine-tuning it at the end, with a few exceptions, but not many.
Cool. I think we can move on.
Okay, cool. So what I'd like to do is go through some of the images that we've adjusted and show you some before and after. So we can just take a look at what we've done. Now, unfortunately, the way I work with these images, it's not going to be as easy to show you before and after. Because when I initially imported these images into Lightroom, they were already adjusted. And after I imported them, I went into Lightroom and there's a choice called Reset. Reset means act as if I've never used these images in Lightroom, and it takes away all your adjustments. So as far as Lightroom is concerned, my before image, which is the image I originally imported, is actually one that's already been adjusted. And so it'll make it a little different than it would be if you were at home just trying to follow along kind of thing. But anyway, I'm in the Develop module right now. I'm looking at one of our images, and in the lower left, there are two icons. The icon on the left is what we're in right now. And that's where it's known as Loop View, and it will be your image filling the screen. If I click on the icon to the right of that, we're going to be able to see a before and after of the image. Right now they look the same, and that's because when I imported these pictures, they were already adjusted. And only after I imported them, I chose Reset, which got rid of the adjustments. And then we proceeded to adjust them. So it thinks of the before as whatever it looked like when I first imported it. And the after is my end result. So anyway, I can still do it though. All I'm going to do is I'm going to take our after version here. There's a button in the lower right called Reset, and that's going to throw away all the adjustments. So at least the one on the right can look like what we have. So you can see kind of before and after that way. Just so you know, with this icon here, you have a couple different ways you can do this. If you just click this icon more than once, you can split your image in half vertically to see before and after. You can show it above and below, split it horizontally, or show it side by side the other way. So you just click it multiple times to cycle through those. What I'm going to do, though, is not use this feature because it thinks of my before as one that's already been adjusted. It's just because of how I did things. And what I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to be hitting the Reset button to get back to the original. That's going to strip off all settings that are there and show me what the image would look like if it had never been adjusted. So here's one we adjusted earlier. There's the original. And this one we just played with. We barely did anything to it, though, so not necessarily going to be exactly what I would have done. And then I'm just typing Command-Z to undo. That one we didn't adjust. That one we did. But it just gives you some sense for what kind of changes we're making. Let's see if there are any that would be rather dramatic. I think this one would